Welcome to the Business Spotlight podcast. My name is Kay Cote, and I'm your host for today's episode. And today we have Carleen Walker, CEO of Morgan Marketing and Communications, CEO and co-founder of NAMEPA, CEO of Shipping Insight, managing partner of Maritime Accelerator of Resilience, and who are the authors of zero Point 4 book. And she is also the CEO of SeaTrain Technology, CMO of Purity Fuel and International Maritime Organization, and a Goodwill Maritime Ambassador. So thank you so much, Carleen, for being here on the show today. I'm very excited to share your story with my guests.
Well, thank you for having me, Kay. This is a really wonderful opportunity for me to share my experiences to help others.
Oh my gosh, what a beautiful introduction. You have so many great things going for you. And especially it's so unique for women to be in the shipping industry. So I am so excited to dive in. So how did you get where you are?
Well, it all started back in Michigan, which is where I grew up. I was raised on an island south of Detroit, where the Detroit River meets Lake Erie. And when I was a little girl, the Detroit River was the second busiest waterway after the Suez Canal. So when I was an angsty teenager, I would go down to the water and watch the ships going up and down and wondering where are they going, what's on board, and can I come with them? When I graduated from high school, I went out east to Wellesley College and went from Wellesley College down to Manhattan, where I got involved in advertising, public relations, and marketing. I was at Ogilvy and Mather, and I still maintain it is one of the best research shops in the world. And in 1992, I took the skill set that I'd gained at Ogilvy and Mather, and I applied them to an industry about which I was passionate, which was shipping. So I started out in cruise line marketing, and then in 1995, I got involved in the commercial maritime industry when a gentleman that I will always attribute to a lot of my success, Jim Lawrence, hired me at International Marketing Strategies. I worked with Jim for 5 years, developing marine money, developing International Ship Registry Review, running the Connecticut Maritime Association conference. And I also brought a lot of the marketing and communications, Marcom skills to that shop, as well as working on to develop MTI Network. I was married at the time with 2 kids, but I divorced a couple of years later and moved to Connecticut from Larchmont. And it was difficult to be a single mom responsible for putting a roof over 2 children's heads and working full time. So I started my own company, and that in 1999, I started Morgan Marketing and Communications. And I will always be grateful to the maritime industry because they wanted the skills and the services that I could provide. So I had a number of clients, some of them shipping companies, some of them service providers to the shipping industry. And another of my mentors is a gentleman named Morten Arntzen. And he at the time was CEO of what is now International Seaways. At the time, it was Overseas Shipholding Group. And I had promised a document to him, but I'd had a day with the kids that had been a little rough, and I didn't get that document to him in the timely fashion. So I sent it off at about, I don't know, 12:15 at night. And he must have been in Europe because he immediately sent it back to me and said, I don't ever want to get work from you at this hour. I need you well rested because I need your creativity. And he was the first person who ever said I was creative. I draw stick people. I can't paint, I can't draw. But he said I was creative, and I thought about it, and I realized I am, because I bring out of the box thinking into the box, and I try to change the box, and I try to make it look less like a box and something that's more fit for purpose to serve clients, to serve the products, to serve the needs at the time. In 2006, because I was going back and forth to Greece a lot at that time. In 2006, I ran into a gentleman named Dimitri Mitsatsos. And Dimitri was the original executive director of HELMEPA, the Hellenic Marine Environment Protection Association. And I said, why is there no MEPA in North America? And he said that, oh, Carleen, they're your country. She is too vast. Nobody can wrap their arms around it. And when somebody tells me I can't do something, I like to prove them wrong. So I went back to the United States and I did a canvas of a number of people. I talked to ship owners, talked to the Coast Guard, talked to classification societies, and they all thought it was a good idea. So in 2007, I co-founded NAMEPA, the North American Marine Environment Protection Association, whose mission is to save our seas. And it's a maritime industry-led initiative that brings together industry to discuss strategies on how they're going to mitigate their impact on the marine environment. We also educate seafarers, port communities, and students to save our seas, and we communicate the value proposition of the shipping industry, because the shipping industry may be invisible, but it carries more than 90% of the world's energy and goods. The other thing it provides are phenomenal jobs, but unfortunately, a lot of our youth aren't aware of it. They don't understand that these are high-paying, solid jobs, careers that will give them endless satisfaction and most often an opportunity to travel. In 2012, I helped start something called Shipping Insight, which is the fleet optimization and innovation platform for shipping. And that is an opportunity for industry to meet with solution providers to find ways in which they can operate more efficiently, operate more effectively, really, and to use all of today's tools to do a better job of moving that 90% of goods and energy. 2015, the United States Coast Guard nominated me to be an ambassador to the International Maritime Organization. That is the UN agency that governs the maritime industry, and they're headquartered in London. And it was a great honor to be nominated by our federal government to be a representative of our industry at the IMO as a Goodwill Maritime Ambassador. And I continue with that role today. In 2017, I purchased Shipping Insight and became the Chief Evolution Officer. When you own it, you can call yourself anything you want. So I'm the Chief Evolution Officer, and we have been partners with industry to facilitate the transformation of this industry. I am excited to be part of the maritime community in this decade because we are experiencing more change and more evolution that has occurred since Malcolm McLean invented the container in 1955. And during the late 2000s, actually it was more into this decade, I began a project to work with a group of people to improve what's going on in the maritime industry. I'm always seeking to support the industry and help in its improvement. And a group of us were talking about different aspects of the maritime industry writ large. And 2.5 years ago, I was at a national maritime conference in New York City, and three-star Admiral, retired Navy Admiral Jamie Fogo stood up at that conference and said, if the United States goes to war tomorrow, I need 100 tankers to fuel the naval fleet in the Pacific. If China goes to war, we need to fuel our Pacific fleet. He said, I have one tanker. And I realized that the US flag, which at the end of World War II was on 50% of the international vessels, had gotten to the point where we were vulnerable in so many different areas. So our group, called the Maritime Accelerator for Resilience, we wrote a book called 0.4. As I said, at the end of World War II, 50% of all commercial vessels waved the US flag on their sterns. Today, that number is 0.4. so that our maritime security and our vulnerability impacts national security, energy security, environmental security, economic security, and workforce development. So we need a strong U.S. maritime fleet in order to support our nation. We're very pleased that when we wrote the book, we took it around Congress and we met with the sponsors of the Ships for America Act. And that act right now is in Congress, being debated in Congress now. And its aim is to shore up our U.S. flag fleet so that we can reduce our vulnerabilities. The president issued an executive order for revitalizing, restoring America's maritime dominance. And we need that. Now we're seeing a lot of activity in the Middle East. We've got activity in the South China Sea. We need a strong U.S. flag international maritime fleet to service our Navy and our country. And that's what 0.4 is all about. Last year, I got a call from a gentleman down in Florida who had an idea for a new type of maritime vessel, commercial vessel, or defense. And we talked about it a bit, and we kept talking and talking. And then in March, he asked me to be CEO of SeaTrain Technology, which has all its patents approved, and it is a submersible, remotely operated cargo vessel for commercial, defense, and energy applications. And we're very excited that we're in the process of getting the certifications to commercialize it. And this, I believe, will be the pointy end of the spear, if you will, of the revitalization of the U.S. maritime industry. I took a breath, Kay. There we go.
Wow, what an incredible journey you've had. And, just looking at everything you're currently working on, I would love to kind of like focus on one of these projects that your heart, I know you're passionate about all of them. Is there one that you're currently working on that is like out of all of them that you're working on more or?
Well, I don't know if you recall, probably not. There used to be a television program called the Ed Sullivan Show. And Ed Sullivan always had a man, well, occasionally, once a month or once every 2 months, had a man twirling plates. And I consider myself to be a plate twirler. I need to keep all those plates in the air. And and all of them are integrated in some fashion. Morgan Marketing supports SeaTrain. Shipping Insight is a platform for innovation. NAMEPA is working with all of these solution providers to mitigate the industry's impact on the marine environment. And frankly, we are all working in concert for the revitalization of the U.S. maritime industry, which is mission critical today. So I don't have, I mean, maybe it's adult ADD or maybe it's just a consuming passion with the maritime industry, but I try to keep all the plates in the air. I'm
Wow.
very excited about the SeaTrain technology though, because that is such a cutting edge innovation. It's going to revolutionize the way we build ships and the way ships operate. And that's a very exciting opportunity.
Definitely. Well, so looking at the seed train technology, let's look at that one. I know, are you developing a team around that, or do you currently have teams
Yes.
in place? And okay, so what does your team look like at Sea Train? Is
At
that,
SeaTrain,
yeah,
our SeaTrain is building, a team is building. I'm pleased to say at the moment, we have a male founder and we have at the moment an all-female team leading it, which considering that the maritime industry is 19% female globally, it is exciting to have that opportunity to collaborate and bring in different specialties. I'm the maritime subject matter expert, if you will, but I'm blonde and I'm not an engineer. So we have an engineer out in Hawaii. We have a doctor of logistics in Florida, who is our COO, and we have a CFO who just came out of a multinational uh, engineering, well, more than engineering, a electronics provider company. So we've got a diverse team, and we'll be building out as the requirements for those positions come up. And we're not exclusive to female, just happens to be where we are right now. And what works for now, we're a remote operation, headquartered down in Boynton Beach, Florida, but we're operating remotely. I'm sitting here in Greece. And it's building trust, building collegiality, having a shared mission and a shared passion for that mission. And I believe are some of the keys to making any company work. We listen to each other, we respect each other, and we value each person's expertise and area of expertise. We all operate slightly differently, but we come together in a very cohesive fashion.
Well, definitely. And with SeaTrain Technology, where do you see that company going in the next 3 to 5 years?
Oh, well, in the next 3 to 5 years, we will have thousands of SeaTrain vessels on the waters. We'll be building in the United States as well as Asia, and we will have operational centers globally. We're moving very fast because the need is very fast. The need is upon us. In fact, the need was yesterday. So having this technology, getting it operational, getting it commercialized is a national priority, and we need to make that happen. We're not keeping it exclusive to the United States, but given the needs of the United States, my focus is that we give that opportunity to the US first.
And looking at that company, what is, especially starting up a new company that there's a need for, what are some of the challenges that you faced in that process?
Well, what challenges we faced or facing? Um, when you're starting up any company, I think you need to have a strategy and you have to stick to it. It's easy to get pulled in different directions, but it's of paramount importance to have a strategy. If that strategy is blocked for any reason, it's important to look at how you can pivot. But if you get too scattered, you'll never achieve anything. So that's one of the challenges. So one of the things that is a precursor to all of this is you need to have a passion for what you're doing. I don't work 24/7, 365, but I am guilty of checking emails on Christmas Day because I feel passionately about what I do. And it's that old adage, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. It isn't work. It's being mission driven. It's living in a positive mindset, and it's living with purpose. And my purpose is to support the maritime industry. So I do that throughout everything I do. And when I'm looking to work with people, I need them to have a level of passion for what they do. And this isn't a job. If you want a job, go do 9 to 5 somewhere else. I want people that are infused with passion for the mission. Now, the people I'm working with right now, they're not necessarily maritime people, but they believe in the mission of developing SeaTrain. And it's exciting. We feed off of each other's energy and we get a lot done. So finding people that share your vision and your sense of mission and purpose is paramount. And I have that throughout all of my companies. My team in Connecticut, because we do have a physical base in Connecticut, my team in Connecticut, all of them are committed to achieving the goals of the company or the organization that they're supporting. And they are becoming leaders in their own right because of that shared passion, shared commitment, and to that sense that they're They're reaching a higher goal and achieving a higher mission by striving for a purpose. That's important. People are born with purpose, and to actualize that purpose is important to all of us.
Definitely. And what are some of the ways that you're finding those team members that fit that company culture and have that passion?
Well, the culture, it's not set, it's a culture of collaboration. It's a culture of cohesiveness. It's a culture of support. It's a culture of trust. I just recently read a terrific book, and I'm going to give a shameless plug for it. It's called Beyond the Sea, uh, Leading with Love. And it's by Robert Navy Bob Ronska, who was in the U.S. Navy. And he illustrates examples of how good leadership, loving leadership, elicits the best support and work from people. And I have always believed that my respect for others, my caring for my teammates, inspires them to do their best possible work and be their best possible selves. If that culture, if they don't mesh with that culture, then I'm afraid they're not going to last very long with us because we reinforce that on a daily basis. There is shared respect, shared caring, and compassion in all the work that we do. It encourages people to go beyond themselves and encourages them to take risks, knowing that they're not going to get their head cut off. It encourages people to communicate. You want your team members to communicate with you. You
Mm,
don't, there, enormous failures could happen because somebody was reluctant to come forward with a critical piece of information. So
mm.
that's where trust and caring comes in. It's a leadership style that I believe is of paramount importance, and it's certainly a leadership style that I've embraced.
Wow, well, what an incredible journey, with all of the businesses that you're working with right now. I would love to share with our audience how people can connect with any of these businesses online and get involved. How can people find you online?
Well, if the easy way probably is through LinkedIn, but if you pick any one of my organizations, NAMEPA, Shipping Insight, SeaTrain Technology, Maritime Accelerator for Resilience. You want to buy the book, it's on Amazon. Um, you'll be able to find me.
Wonderful. Well, before we close out for the day, I would love to ask one final question. So what is most inspiring to you today?
I am inspired by the willingness of my industry to change in a very accelerated fashion. This is an industry that is a traditional industrial mindset, but this decade is seeing evidence daily of its willingness to embrace change, to accelerate change, to desire change. And it is evolving into an industry that all of us can be proud of, from its ability to deliver transportation services to its mitigation of impacts on the marine environment, to its treatment of its one of its most precious assets, which are the crew. So this industry is changing, evolving, growing, and improving in a very accelerated fashion. And it's exciting to not just watch that, but be a part of it.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Carleen, for sharing all of your knowledge today on your multiple businesses that you're working on. And I wish you the very best in everything you do.
Well, Kay, thank you for having me. I'm very excited. One of my favorite things is mentoring. And if this in any way helps another business owner, it would be my greatest pleasure.
Thank you.